The tapping have a relationship to different like meridians of the body? Is there certain areas where, you get a release or that it sparks like more creativity or productivity? Because I know that's something that a lot of people are trying to improve on, both those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what stops us is from so many things is stress. When people say, I'm just not motivated. And I say, BS. You have plenty of motivation. You just have more resistance at the moment.
Mm.
Action takes place when our motivation outweighs our resistance. It's like this scale. I have willpower, but I also have won't power. I have all these reasons why I will do it, but I have all these reasons why I won't do it. And if the reasons that I won't do it are outweighing the will, that's when we get stuck. And then we just say, I'm lazy. It's like, no, I don't believe in lazy. It's
Mhm.
just to cover up for resistance that we're not aware of. So through the tapping, one of the great things about the tapping is that it helps us to get more clarity, because we stuff things down. We bury what might be stopping us and why we might be resisting things. And as we're tapping, it's like peeling the layers of the onion, and we get more awareness. I may be tapping with someone on being angry at a coworker, and they might be tapping for a few moments and then go, oh, it's not even this person. It's my best friend in the third grade when she took this toy that I had, and and that upset me so much. And decades of stress that have been very subtle but present, that have
Mm.
been controlling this person's beliefs and behavior. So as we start to tap and clear up and break up that energy and release it, then we have much greater freedom. And to hear the question about the points, yeah, all of the points that we're tapping are points on these different meridians, and the meridians in traditional acupuncture relate to different organs, which relate to different emotions. Now, the original version of tapping, thought field therapy, that was created by Roger Callahan, was he would diagnose what the issue was that the client had and figure out, okay, well, then we should use these 2 or 3 points in this sequence. And he had all these different algorithms, which is kind of complicated. You had to figure out okay, well, I got to do this point, this point. And one of his first students was Gary Craig, who had a degree in engineering. So thinking like an engineer, he's like, okay, how do we simplify this? Hey, if we're only using 8 points, it doesn't take that long to go through 8 points. Let's just go through them top to bottom rather than trying to figure out which points in which algorithm, and found that he was getting the same kind of great results. So
Wow.
there are times where I might focus on a particular point, like under the eye is attached to the stomach meridian, which is related to fear. So there may be times where I'll tap with someone on fear under the eye, but we can go through all of these points and cover so many bases that we generally don't worry about that.
That's amazing. And you tend to go into different places. You don't just stick in one area the entire time of your tapping, right?
Yeah, we go through all of the points. We tap each point between 5 and 10 times generally.
Mm.
And but I'll tell folks, if you feel compelled to stick on one point, go with that. And it may not be, it's like I may feel like tapping under the eye, but it may not feel like fear that I'm experiencing. It's like, don't worry about it. Just go with that gut instinct. There may be something going on there. Although, to my mind, every discomfort that we experience emotionally has fear underneath. It's been
Mm.
said, ultimately, there's two emotions, there's love and there's fear. So, whatever doesn't feel like love has some level of fear underneath it. And so, any tapping that we're doing is clearing out whatever those fears might be. And they may be irrational, they may be misunderstandings, but there's somewhere in our body we want to be compassionate with ourselves and allow ourselves to process that. And again, through the tapping, we tend to get more clarity and recognize, oh, here's what's bothering me. Here's what's stopping me. Here's why I don't feel motivated. Because, in terms of productivity, in terms of creativity, we have amazing capacity, and we don't
Mm.
even realize why we stop ourselves. And like I said, we'll sometimes say, I'm lazy. It's like, no, that's a con. We're just not aware of the reasons why we are stopping ourselves from taking action. As we can address those with the tapping, it's like, oh, that's not really that scary. That's probably not even a real possibility. And I can't wait to get going now.
And with all of your experience, with hypnotherapy and tapping, do you feel like utilizing both of those, you've been able to like marry the two components to help your clients even make more substantial changes? Or do you feel like it's primarily been just tapping that has been the helpful piece?
Yeah, I love the tapping because it's so simple, and you can even tap without wording. And a lot of times the wording that we use has hypnotic components, and it brings in NLP and CBT and things like that at times. Although you can also just tap while saying affirmations or prayers or things like that. But you can also tap silently, and it's going to work on the body even without words. You can still get benefit. I still, in most of my sessions, both group and private, I generally end a session with a short hypnosis. I just call it guided imagery now,
Mhm.
just because it's such a profoundly nurturing process for mind and body. So it's a great way to take some of the elements of what we've explored with tapping and kind of combine them in a very peaceful and nurturing way.
Would you mind leading us through a little example of how you tap and how you create this environment for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially since I assume some folks might be hearing this on audio, I'll tell you where all the points are. So you're going to start with the fingertips of your index and middle finger, and you can use your dominant hand. The meridians run up and down both sides of the body, so you can tap with either hand or both at the same time on most of the points. But for the demonstration, I'll say take your dominant hand, and with the fingertips of your index and middle finger, gently tap on the side of your opposite hand. So right on the edge of your hand between your wrist and your pinky. And that's where we're going to do what we call the setup statement. So if you're aware of something that's bothering you, like I'm feeling all of the stress and rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. Oh, it's an 8. I'm really feeling stressed out. Notice where in your body it might be. Well, I have all this tension in my shoulders. So we know what the issue is and how strong it is. And we can be more specific if possible. Like I'm really angry at Bob. I'm really nervous about this meeting with my boss this afternoon, whatever it might be. And so that would be the setup phrase: this anger at Bob, this nervousness about the meeting, or just this stress. And it could just be the physical symptom: this tension in my shoulders. So we tap on the side of the hand and say, even though I have this issue, tension in my shoulders, nervousness about the meeting, I choose to love and accept myself. And we'll repeat that 3 times. And we're just creating an opening for the process to work, because so often we fight against it. No, I'm just denying that I have this issue. I'm fine. And this is, no, I love and accept myself, even though I'm experiencing this issue. So repeat that 3 times. Then we'll go to the eyebrow point. So right at the beginning of your eyebrow, on either side, right in the middle of your face, we gently tap there, about 5 or 10 times, and say, this issue, this stress, this anger, whatever it is. Then we follow the eyebrow out to the corner of your eye, gently tapping there, this issue. Right under the middle of your eye, just above the cheek, this issue. Right under your nose, this issue. Right under your lower lip, just above your chin, this issue. And right about where your collarbones just about come together, there's a little bit of a U shape at the base of your throat. And you can tap with all of your fingertips, or you can just make a fist and cover that whole area right there. This issue. The next point is about 4 inches below your armpit. So that's right about bra strap level. And I'm sure even the guys can figure out where that is. And just tap in there, this issue. And then finally, using all of your fingertips around the top of your head, just tapping around circles around the crown of your head, this issue. And then you take a deep breath. And you check back in. It's like, okay, if I felt this stress at an 8, now it may be a 5. It may go, sometimes it'll go from an 8 to a 0 like that. Sometimes it goes from an 8 to a 7.75. Now, if we've been carrying an 8 for a while, 7.75 is going to feel better. So any relief we can get is better. And we also might get greater clarity, like I said, about the peeling the layers of the onion. So I might be aware of, now I know exactly what's bothering me. and what I'm afraid of. And then I can tap more specifically on that. It's like if I'm nervous about this meeting with my boss, it's like because I'm expecting I'm going to be asking for a raise soon, and if this meeting doesn't go well, I'm really messed up, and I've got some big bills coming up. I have a child on the way. Bills are going to be piling, whatever it might be. So then I can get more clear about the fear, and I might even be more aware of, oh, and the reason is 10 years ago I went through that real financial hardship, and there were so many difficulties, and I don't ever want to go back there, and I'm afraid I'm going to go back to that. So then we can tap on whatever specifically is showing up in our energy system and resolve that.
That's incredible. It's funny though how tapping brings out a lot of subconscious, you know, fears, like you said earlier, or, stressors from the past. What are, I mean, I know cognitive therapy is extremely helpful, but what are some ways that people can continue to reduce, but also be aware of this past trauma with their practice of tapping?
Yeah. Well, the tapping creates this level of safety as we're calming down the stress. We allow ourselves to open some more doors and look at some things that we might not otherwise do. We might, most of the time we're going through it. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. That 4-letter F word. And because part of it says, it's like there's an electric fence, and every time we get close to it, we get shocked. So that's what that stress response is. The stress response is back off. And so when we start to go, I wonder why I'm not making as much money as back off. Okay, I'm fine. Never mind.
Yeah.
And so the tapping calms down that stress. We, go up and it's like, oh, the electric fence isn't turned on. I can step outside and I can expand my comfort zone, and I can start to look at some other things. And looking at, that time 10 years ago, we had that financial hardship. And what about it was so hard? What was I believing at that time? What were the challenges? Because I obviously got through it. I obviously had the resources to survive. So rather than looking at this as a painful time, why am I not looking at this as a triumph? Because I got to the other side of this.
Mm.
And so we start to see these places that have felt like weaknesses and suddenly become sources of strength. So yeah, it's just that creating that level of safety to be able to look at these things that we might otherwise run away from.